Lena lived with her mother in a tiny rented room at the edge of an old neighborhood, a place where the roads were cracked and the streetlights flickered like they were tired. The room was small enough that Lena could touch both walls if she stretched her hands out, but she never complained. She had grown used to living simply, and the room still felt warm to her because it was home. And her mother filled it with love. Every morning, before the sun came up, Lena would wake to the soft sound of her mother coughing. It was a dry cough at first, then a deeper one as the months passed. Lena always got up quietly, pretending she hadn't heard it, because her mother hated to worry her. But Lena noticed everything. She always did. Her mother would sit at the small wooden table, breathing slowly as if every breath needed effort. She would smile when Lena came over. "I'm fine," she always said, gently waving her hand. But Lena could see how pale she looked, how small her hands had become, how tired her eyes were. And even though her mother tried to stand strong, Lena knew the truth. Something was wrong. Something serious, Lena had asked her once in a soft voice. What was happening? Her mother tried to avoid the question, but one night, when her breathing grew worse, she finally told her. She needed surgery. She needed treatment. The doctor had explained everything clearly, but the cost was far more than they had. Even with every coin Lena had saved from singing on the streets, even with every small job she had taken washing dishes at the tea stall, carrying bags for customers at the market, helping the neighbor fold clothes, they were nowhere close. Lena remembered sitting quietly on the edge of her bed that night. Her mother had fallen asleep early, exhausted from the long day. The moonlight came through the window, falling across her mother's face, and Lena felt her heart twist. She wanted to cry, but she told herself she needed to be strong. Crying would not bring money. Crying would not bring hope. So she pressed her palms together, breathed deeply, told herself she would find a way. In the morning, she put on her faded dress and grabbed her old guitar. It had been a gift from a kind neighbor years ago, and though the strings were worn, the sound still felt warm to her. She walked to the market street, where people passed all day, and chose a corner where she usually stood. She placed a small metal cup in front of her and began singing. Her voice was soft at first, just enough to warm her throat. She closed her eyes and imagined singing next to her mother, like she used to before her mother fell sick. Soon, more strength entered her voice, and it carried through the noisy market. People slowed their steps. Some stopped to listen. Children watched her from a distance, curious. A few coins clinked into the cup. Lena offered small smiles of gratitude. She sang for hours, taking breaks only when her throat grew dry. In the late afternoon, she counted her earnings and sighed. It was barely enough to buy groceries, let alone pay for treatment. But she told herself that every coin mattered. Even the smallest step was still a step toward hope. As she walked back home, she passed a large banner near the community hall. It showed bright lights, happy faces, and bold words announcing a talent contest happening in 2 weeks. The prize money was written in big golden letters, an amount so huge that Lena stopped walking. Her heart began racing. She read the banner twice, then a third time. It felt unreal. That amount could pay for her mother's surgery. It could change everything. She reached out and touched the edge of the banner, as if doing so would make the possibility feel more real, but then doubt crept into her heart. She saw the smiling faces of the other contestants shown on the banner, kids dressed well, holding fancy instruments, performers who looked confident and ready. Lena looked down at her simple dress and her old guitar. She wondered if someone like her even belonged on a stage like that when she reached home. Her mother saw the look on her face immediately. "You look like you've been thinking about something big," her mother said gently. Lena hesitated, then told her about the contest. She expected her mother to laugh or say it was impossible. Instead, her mother smiled softly. "Why not try?" She said, "You have a voice that comes from the heart. Sometimes that matters more than anything else." Lena looked at her mother, unsure. But what if I'm not good enough? Her mother reached out and held her hand. "You're good enough for me, and maybe that's enough to take one small chance." She squeezed Lena's hand gently. "Sometimes life gives us one open door. All we have to do is walk through it." Those words stayed in Lena's heart long after the conversation ended. That night, after her mother fell asleep, Lena sat on the edge of the bed with her guitar. She strummed the strings softly, humming a tune she had never fully finished. It was a song about longing, a song about an empty place in her life, a space where a father's face should have been. She didn't remember him. Her mother never talked much about him. All she knew was that he was gone before she was born. Sometimes, when she was younger, she would ask other children what their fathers were like. Some told her their fathers were strict. Some said their fathers made them laugh. Others said their fathers worked far away, but always brought gifts when they returned home. Lena used to quietly imagine what her own father would have been like. Would he have taught her to play guitar better? Would he have called her my little star, the way she sometimes imagined? But eventually, she learned not to ask. Her mother would look sad whenever the topic came up, so Lena stopped bringing it up now. As she sat with her guitar and hummed her unfinished song, she felt something stirring inside her. Something honest, something raw. She let the tune grow, adding small words between the notes. She didn't force anything. She just let the song come from the place inside her that had always felt a little empty when she finally set the guitar down. She felt a strange mix of sadness and hope. Maybe this was the song she would sing at the contest. Maybe this song, born from her heart, was the one thing she truly had. The next 2 weeks passed slowly. Every day after school, Lena would practice behind the house, near the old mango tree where no one could hear her. She practiced until her throat grew sore. She practiced until the song felt like part of her. Sometimes she stumbled. Sometimes she forgot a line. But every time she made a mistake, she took a breath and kept going. Her mother listened from inside the house, smiling proudly even when she felt weak. She never interrupted. She never corrected. She simply let Lena grow in her own way. On the day of the contest, Lena woke before sunrise. The sky was still dark and the air felt cool against her skin. She washed her face, braided her hair, and put on her cleanest dress, the one her mother had sewn a year earlier. It had a tiny tear near the sleeve, but it still looked neat. Her mother sat at the table, her breathing slow but steady. "Come here," she whispered. Lena walked over and her mother gently placed her hands on her daughter's cheeks. "No matter what happens today, you've already made me proud. Remember that." Lena nodded, trying to hide the nervous flutter in her chest. She picked up her guitar and walked to the community hall, her steps steady, but her heart racing. When she arrived, she saw dozens of contestants waiting outside. Some were dressed in bright clothes. Some carried shiny instruments. Some practiced dance steps or vocal warm-ups confidently. Lena tucked herself into a quiet corner. She hugged her guitar close, reminding herself why she was here. She wasn't here to win for fame. She wasn't here to be noticed. She was here for her mother, for the person who had given up everything just to raise her with love. Inside the hall, people were talking excitedly. Judges sat at the front table, checking their notes and talking softly to each other. Lena noticed one judge who looked different from the others, a man in a dark suit, with a calm but serious face. He didn't smile like the others. He sat quietly, lost in thought, tapping a pen lightly on the table. Lena didn't know who he was, but something about him made her pause for a moment. Then she shook off the thought and focused on her breathing. The contest hadn't even started yet, and she didn't want to overwhelm herself. When her name was finally called, Lena felt her heart jump. She walked toward the stage, each step feeling heavier than the last. The lights were bright, brighter than she expected. She blinked, trying to adjust. She stood behind the microphone, holding her guitar tightly. The hall felt huge suddenly. Hundreds of eyes looked at her. She took a deep breath, remembering her mother's words, and the reason she was standing here. She strummed the first chord. The sound echoed gently through the hall, and Lena began to sing. Lena stood on the stage with her guitar in her hands, and for a moment, the world felt too big. The lights above her were bright, washing over her face and making it hard to see the crowd clearly. But she knew they were there, so many people, all watching her, waiting to hear what she had to offer. Her heart thumped loudly in her chest, almost in rhythm with the soft vibration of her guitar. She took a slow breath, one that she hoped would steady her nerves. She thought of her mother back home, probably sitting by the window waiting for her to return. The idea gave her strength. This wasn't about winning for applause or praise. It was about saving the person who mattered most to her. She strummed the first chord. It rang out gently through the hall, warming the space with a soft, familiar sound. The hall grew quiet. Even the small murmurs from the back faded. Lena's voice was soft at first, trembling with nerves, but as she continued, something shifted inside her. Her voice strengthened, carrying emotion with every word. She didn't sing loudly. She didn't try to impress anyone with fancy notes or impossible pitches. Instead, she sang with honesty. She sang like she always did, like the music was coming from a place deep inside her, a place that knew pain and hope at the same time. The judges sat quietly watching her. Two of them leaned forward, looking impressed already. But the third judge, the man in the dark suit, kept his eyes on Lena in a way that felt different. He looked like he was searching for something in her performance, something he couldn't quite understand yet. When Lena finished the final note, the hall remained quiet for a moment. It wasn't the kind of silence that signaled boredom or confusion. It was the kind where people had forgotten to breathe. Then the applause came soft at first, then louder as more people joined in. Lena lowered her guitar slowly, her hands slightly shaking. She didn't smile yet. She didn't know how to feel. She had never sung before such a large crowd, and now that she had done it, she felt both relieved and overwhelmed. "Thank you," one judge said with a warm smile. "That was beautiful," another judge nodded eagerly. "Your voice has something special. It's gentle, but powerful. Very rare." But it was the man in the dark suit who caught Lena's attention. He didn't speak right away. He kept looking at her with an expression she couldn't read, part curiosity, part confusion, and something else she didn't understand. "What's your name?" he finally asked. "Lena?" she answered softly. He nodded slowly, almost as if her name stirred a memory he hadn't expected. "And the song? Did you write it?" Lena nodded again, tightening her grip on her guitar. "Yes. It's personal." The man's gaze softened, though he didn't smile. "I could tell." That was all he said, but it felt heavy, meaningful. Like he wanted to say more, but couldn't find the words. Lena stepped off the stage and went backstage, her legs feeling light and unsteady. She sat on a wooden bench, holding her guitar close, trying to calm the mixture of emotions inside her. Other contestants sat nearby, some whispering to each other, others practicing their lines or songs. A few had watched her performance from the wings and now looked at her with new eyes, some impressed, some curious, a few maybe even nervous. A girl wearing a bright blue dress approached her. She had a shiny microphone headset and perfect hair. "You were good," she said. The tone was polite, but not unfriendly. "Thank you," Lena replied. The girl shrugged. "I'm doing a dance performance. My mom paid a special coach to help me prepare." She seemed proud of that fact. Then she looked at Lena's guitar. "You wrote your own song?" "That's hard." Lena smiled gently. It just felt natural. The girl nodded as if she didn't fully understand, but respected it. "Well, good luck." "Good luck to you too," Lena replied. The girl returned to her group, leaving Lena alone again. She looked at her guitar and let out a soft breath. She didn't know if she would win. The contest was filled with talented kids. Some had expensive instruments, some had professional training, some had families cheering loudly from the seats. Lena had none of that, but she had her mother's love, and that was enough. The contest continued, and Lena listened to the sounds of other performances from backstage. Some were amazing. Dancers spun across the stage with practiced precision. Singers hit notes so clean they echoed beautifully. Musicians played instruments she had only ever seen in pictures. But every time someone performed, Lena reminded herself that talent was not about comparison. It was about truth. After several performances, one of the staff members announced that all contestants should gather near the stage for results from the first round. Lena stood up, holding her guitar firmly. She joined the group and waited as the judges came forward, holding clipboards. The host stepped onto the stage with a wide smile. "What an incredible group of young talent. We are so proud of each and every participant." Now, We will be announcing the names of those who will move forward to the next round. Lena felt her heart beat faster. She tried to stand tall, even though her legs wanted to tremble. One by one, the names were called. The girl in the blue dress made it. A boy with a violin made it. A group of dancers made it. Each name that wasn't hers made her more anxious. Then she heard it.
Alina.
She blinked. For a second, she thought she had imagined it. But then she saw the host smiling directly at her. Congratulations. A wave of warmth spread through her. She let out a soft breath of relief and whispered thank you to no one in particular. Some contestants clapped for her. Others looked surprised. Lena didn't mind. She was simply grateful. The judges left the stage, but the man in the dark suit looked back once. His eyes found Lena in the crowd. There was something intense in his gaze, something that made Lena feel like he was studying her, searching for pieces of a puzzle only he could see. She looked away quickly, not wanting to seem rude. But her heart felt strange, as if something important had happened, even though she didn't know what. Backstage, one of the staff members approached the contestants. Those who made it to the second round should return tomorrow for rehearsals. You will also meet the judges again and learn more about the next performance requirements. Lena nodded, then gathered her guitar and headed toward the exit. Outside, the evening air felt fresh against her skin. The sun had set, leaving behind a faint golden glow along the horizon. People walked around the community hall, talking about the performances they had seen. Lena walked home slowly, replaying the day over and over in her mind. She remembered the audience's silence during her song, the applause at the end, the look from the man in the dark suit. She didn't know who he was, but something about him made her feel seen. Not judged, not pitied, but noticed in a way that felt strange. When she reached home, her mother was sitting on the edge of the bed waiting just as Lena had imagined. Her mother looked up. How did it go? Lena's face lit up. I made it to the next round. Her mother's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of pride. She held out her arms and Lena rushed into them. They hugged tightly, the kind of hug that spoke 1,000 unspoken words. I knew you could do it, her mother whispered. Lena smiled into her shoulder. I was so scared at first, but I just kept thinking about you. Her mother stroked her hair gently. That's all you need. A reason that comes from the heart. They sat together for a while, talking quietly about the day. Lena described the hall, the lights, the other contestants, and the judges. When she mentioned the man in the dark suit, her mother paused. What was his name? Her mother asked softly. I didn't catch it, Lena said. He didn't talk much, but he looked at me like he knew me. Her mother looked down at her hands. Sometimes people see themselves in others, she said gently. But there was a strange tone in her voice, like she knew something Lena didn't. Lena didn't question it. She was too tired to think too deeply. Later that night, after her mother fell asleep, Lena sat outside under the small patch of sky she could see between the buildings. She rested her guitar beside her and looked up at the stars. She thought about the next round. She thought about the prize money and how it could save her mother's life. She thought about the man in the dark suit and the way he watched her, but mostly, she thought about the song she would sing tomorrow. It needed to be honest. It needed to carry the same truth she felt today. She closed her eyes and listened to the quiet around her. Then she picked up her guitar and strummed a soft chord. Tomorrow would be another big day, and Lena was ready to face it. The next morning arrived sooner than Lena expected. She hardly slept through the night, waking several times to check the clock, afraid she would oversleep and miss her rehearsal. When dawn finally spread its soft light across the small room, she got ready quietly so she wouldn't disturb her mother. Her mother watched her from the bed anyway, smiling weakly. You're up early. I don't want to be late, Lena said, tying her shoes. Her mother nodded softly. Remember, today is just another step. Don't think too far ahead. Just focus on what you can give. Lena breathed in slowly. I'll try. She grabbed her guitar and stepped outside. The morning air felt cool and crisp, carrying a quietness that calmed her nerves. The streets were not crowded yet, and she walked quickly, feeling the weight of the day settle into her chest. Today mattered, but she didn't want fear to ruin it. When she arrived at the community hall, several contestants were already there. Some practiced in little groups, others stretched or tuned their instruments. The girl in the blue dress from yesterday waved at her. "You came early too," the girl said. Lena smiled. "I wanted to be prepared." Staff member called all contestants together. "Good morning, everyone. Today is rehearsal day. You will meet the judges again and perform a short part of what you are preparing for the second round. They'll give you guidance if needed." Lena swallowed. She wasn't sure if she wanted guidance. She didn't know if she could handle being told her song wasn't enough as they entered the hall. The judges were already seated. The two friendly judges smiled openly, but the man in the dark suit sat silently, watching the contestants file in. His eyes scanned the room until they found Lena. When they did, he paused ever so slightly as if surprised to see her again. Lena looked away quickly, one by one. Contestants went on stage to perform a part of their next piece. Some judges gave advice on posture, breath control, musical timing. The atmosphere felt relaxed, but Lena could sense the quiet pressure underneath it. When her turn came, her palms grew sweaty. She wiped them on her dress, took a deep breath, stepped onto the stage. "Good morning, Lena," one judge said kindly. "Good morning," she replied. "What will you be performing today?" The second judge asked. "I wrote another song," Lena said softly. "It's about holding on to hope even when things feel heavy." The man in the dark suit leaned forward slightly, as though that caught his interest. "You may begin," he said quietly. Lena nodded. She lifted her guitar, strummed a gentle chord, and let her voice fill the empty space. She didn't sing loudly. She sang almost like she was speaking directly to someone who needed comfort as much as she did. The hall grew still. Just like yesterday when she finished, she let the last note linger before lowering her guitar. Her heart raced as she looked toward the judges. The first judge clapped softly. "Your voice feels honest. Very beautiful." The second judge nodded in agreement. "Your strength is your sincerity. Don't lose that." Then the man in the dark suit spoke. "Who taught you to sing like that?" he asked, his voice calm but strangely intense. Lena hesitated. "No one. I just learned on my own." He tapped his pen lightly on the table, his eyes narrowing slightly, not in anger, but deep thought. "And the song? You wrote it yourself again?" "Yes. Do you write often?" "Only when I feel something strongly," she said. He stopped tapping his pen. Something flickered across his face, something unreadable. "I see," he murmured. Lena stepped off the stage, relieved to be done. She went back to sit with the other contestants, trying to ignore how strange the judge's questions made her feel. It was almost as if he wanted to know her, but not as a contestant. In a different way, when rehearsals ended, the judges prepared to leave. The contestants collected their things and slowly headed outside. Lena was about to exit when she heard a soft voice behind her. "Lena?" She turned. It was the man in the dark suit. He stood a few steps away, his expression serious but not cold. "May I speak with you for a moment?" he asked. Lena hesitated. "Yes." "Of course." He walked closer, stopping at a respectful distance. "Your song, was it written about someone specific?" Lena felt her throat tighten. She looked down at her guitar. "It's about my mother. She's sick. I'm trying to stay strong." He exhaled softly, a sound that almost seemed like pain. "I'm sorry. That must be very hard for you." Lena nodded quietly. He paused before asking, "Where's your father?" The question struck her like a sudden wind. She had never expected him to ask that. Her fingers tightened around the guitar. I don't know him. He left before I was born." The judge swallowed, his jaw tightening just a little. His eyes softened in a way that startled Lena. "I see," he said. "What?" But the words sounded heavy. She didn't know what else to say, so she nodded politely. "I should go. My mother's waiting," of course he said immediately. "Take care of her." His voice was gentle, too gentle for someone who seemed so strict. Lena didn't know what to think of it. She walked away quickly, feeling his gaze follow her until she stepped outside. The sun was brighter now, and the warmth helped ease the tension she felt. She headed straight home, her mind filled with thoughts she didn't know how to untangle. When she reached her room, her mother was seated by the window with a cup of warm water. "You're back early," her mother said. "It was just rehearsals," Lena replied, sitting beside her. "How did it go?" her mother asked. "It went well," Lena hesitated, then added, "one of the judges. He asked about you, and about my father." Her mother's expression changed for a brief second, a flicker of something deep and hidden. "Which judge?" she asked softly. "The one in the dark suit." Her mother froze. Not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, subtle way that only Lena could notice. Her fingers tightened slightly around the cup. Her breathing changed. "Did he ask anything else?" Her mother whispered, "No." "Just that? Why?" "Do you know him?" Her mother looked out the window for a long moment. "No," she said finally. "I don't." But her voice didn't sound honest. Lena didn't push. She knew her mother hid certain truths to protect her. But today felt different, like someone else was pulling those hidden truths closer to the surface. The next day was the second round of the contest. Lena spent the morning practicing quietly in the corner of the room while her mother rested. Every now and then she paused to check on her, but her mother insisted she go. "You're doing this for me," her mother said gently. "Don't let worry stop you from shining." Lena nodded, hugged her mother softly, and left. When she arrived at the hall, the energy felt different. More people filled the seats. Reporters and cameramen stood around, capturing clips of the contestants. It felt bigger, more serious. As Lena waited backstage, she peeked at the audience. She saw the judges sitting upright, preparing for the performances. The man in the dark suit looked deep in thought, tapping his pen again. Her name was called earlier than she expected. She stepped onto the stage, heart pounding, hands shaking. The lights brightened, warming her face. She closed her eyes and began her song. This time, her voice felt even stronger, because she was braver, but because she was singing for something greater. She wanted the judges to feel her heart. She wanted them to understand her pain, her hope, her love. Halfway through the song, Lena opened her eyes, and she froze. The man in the dark suit wasn't just watching her. He looked like he was breaking, his eyes steady, controlled, distant, were suddenly filled with emotion. A deep kind of hurt, shock. A realization. Lena faltered slightly, but recovered, finishing the song with trembling breath. When she finished, the hall fell silent again. The first judge clapped slowly. The second judge smiled warmly. But the man in the dark suit didn't move. His pen lay still on the table. His hands were clenched together. His eyes were locked on Lena with an intensity that made her chest tighten. "Lena," he whispered, almost to himself. The host came onto the stage to move things along. But Lena couldn't stop looking at the judge. She walked off the stage, feeling more confused than ever. Something was happening, something she didn't understand. Later, as she waited backstage for the round to finish, she heard someone approaching Lena. It was him, the man in the dark suit. He stood in front of her, his expression full of hesitation, fear, and something else. "Please," he said softly, "I need you to answer something honestly." Lena's heart thumped. "What is it?" "Your mother." He swallowed, struggling with the words. "What is her name?" Lena told him, the moment she did. The man closed his eyes. A deep breath escaped him. A breath filled with years of regret, and Lena knew she just knew that her life was about to change, because the man in front of her wasn't just a judge. He was something else. Something. She had lived her whole life without something she never expected to find here. Her father. The afternoon sun hung low over the city when the contest finally entered its second round, and the hall was filled with a soft buzz of nervous excitement. Lena stood near the side of the stage, holding her hands close to her chest to keep them from shaking. She felt as if everything around her was moving too fast, yet somehow too slow at the same time. Her mind kept drifting back to the tiny rented room where her mother lay resting, trying to appear strong whenever Lena left the house. Every moment of this contest held the weight of her mother's well-being. Lena kept telling herself she had to be brave, even though she felt like a feather in a storm. Backstage, other contestants were laughing, chatting, or scrolling through their phones. Lena didn't really know anyone there, so she stayed by a corner, humming softly under her breath. Her voice was quiet but steady, the way someone hums to calm their own heart. She kept practicing the opening lines of the song she had chosen, a song that wasn't fancy or powerful in a showy way, but personal. She wanted the words to feel like a hand reaching out in the dark. One of the staff members walked past her and offered a small, encouraging smile. Lena smiled back politely, even though her stomach felt tight with nerves. She looked at the stage through the side curtains and saw the judges sitting behind their table. Listening to another contestant sing, there were 3 judges. But it was the one in the center who kept drawing her attention again and again. The one people whispered about when they recognized him. The music producer. The millionaire. The man with the sharp eyes and calm voice. Everyone called him Mr. Hale. Lena didn't know why. But ever since she first stepped into the audition hall the previous day, her eyes had been drawn to him. Not because of his fame. Not because of his reputation. It was something else. Something she couldn't explain. Something that made her wonder if the world was stretching some invisible thread between them, but she quickly pushed the thought away. She didn't have time for mysterious feelings. She had one job to sing and do it well. A staff member suddenly raised a clipboard and called her name. Lena inhaled sharply. Her turn. She stepped toward the stairs leading up to the stage, each step feeling heavier than the last. Her heart beat so fast that she felt its rhythm all the way to her fingertips. She touched the small charm necklace her mother had given her years ago, the only thing they never pawned or sold, no matter how desperate things became. You've got this, she whispered to herself. When she walked onto the stage, the lights were warm and bright, making her blink. The hall fell quiet. She could barely make out the faces in the crowd, but she could see the judges clearly. Mr. Hale sat in the middle, his eyes fixed on her with a thoughtful expression. She didn't know why, but his gaze made her throat tighten. "Hello," said one of the judges, a cheerful-looking woman. "Please tell us your name and what you'll be performing today." Lena held the microphone with both hands, trying to steady it. "My name is Lena," she said softly, "and I'll be singing a song that I wrote myself." The woman nodded with a warm smile. "Whenever you're ready." Lena closed her eyes for a moment before she began. The hall was silent, so silent that she thought she could hear her own heartbeat echoing off the walls. Then, slowly, the first line of her song slipped out. Fragile and trembling like a bird taking its first flight. Her voice wasn't powerful, not the kind that made people's jaws drop in instant amazement. But it had something else. A quiet honesty that wrapped around every word. Her song spoke about longing, about wondering who her father was, about searching for him in small details of life, the shape of a shadow, the tone of a stranger's laugh. She sang about trying to be strong for her mother, about carrying hope even when everything felt uncertain. And then her voice grew fuller, steadier, as if she were reminding herself of her own strength. People in the audience leaned forward. A whisper of emotion spread across the hall, gentle but deep. The other contestants who had been talking backstage fell silent. Something about her voice held them still. Mr. Hale, who had kept his posture straight and professional through the entire day, suddenly leaned forward slightly. His hand stopped mid-tap against the table. His gaze sharpened. He wasn't just listening now. He was searching. Studying her face, her expression, the way she sang with her eyes half closed as if holding back tears. He felt something stir inside him, something he hadn't felt in a long time. A memory, a face he had once known, a voice he had once loved, and though there was no reason he could name, the ache in his chest grew stronger. With every word, Lena sang, when she reached the final verse about wishing someone somewhere in the world might hear her voice and understand her story. Her voice cracked slightly, not from weakness, but from sincerity. She swallowed hard, steadied herself, and finished the last line. The hall went silent. A quiet silence, thick with emotion. Then applause began, not loud at first, but warm, genuine. It spread like a rising wave. A few people even stood. Lena bowed her head slightly, grateful, though she felt shaky and lightheaded. The cheerful female judge spoke first. "That was beautiful, Lena. Truly heartfelt." The second judge nodded. "You have something special. Not just talent, soul." Then Mr. Hale spoke. His voice was calm, but there was a weight to it, something Lena couldn't read. "Could you sing a bit more?" he asked softly. "Just a few lines. Maybe the part about the father again?" Lena froze. She hadn't expected that. No one else had been asked to sing more. But she nodded, lifted the microphone once more, and repeated the verse, her voice gentler this time. Like a secret whispered into the night, Mr. Hale's eyes didn't leave her. Not for a second. And when she finished, he exhaled slowly, as if he had been holding his breath the whole time. "Thank you," he said quietly. Lena stepped backstage again, her hands trembling. She didn't know what had just happened, but the look on Mr. Hale's face kept replaying in her mind. It wasn't a look of a judge evaluating a contestant. It was something else. Something almost familiar. She sank into a chair near the corner, trying to catch her breath. Other contestants came by and congratulated her politely, but she barely heard them. Her head felt full of noise, and yet strangely empty, hidden behind the judges' table. Out of the audience's view, Mr. Hale whispered something to one of the staff members. His face looked pale, unsettled, his mind visibly racing. He excused himself and walked toward the backstage hallway. Steps quick, almost urgent. He needed to know. He needed answers. Lena had no idea that behind the curtains, her life was moments away from changing, and as she held her necklace and glanced at the stage lights, she thought only of one thing. She hoped her mother would be proud, but she didn't know that someone else was about to claim a part of her heart she never knew was missing. The hallway behind the stage felt strangely quiet compared to the noise of the audience outside. Lena sat on a folding chair, still clutching her necklace, trying to keep her breathing steady. She replayed her performance over and over in her mind, every shaky note, every moment she thought her voice might break. But she hadn't expected the judges, especially the man in the center, to react the way they did. Something about the look in his eyes made her chest ache. Though she didn't understand why, as she lifted her head, she saw a staff member hurrying past, carrying papers, and then another one whispering urgently into a headset. There was a kind of quiet tension in the air, but she told herself she was imagining it. After all, she was just one contestant among many. Nothing extraordinary could be happening behind the scenes. Still, the memory of Mr. Hale's expression stayed with her. The way he had leaned forward, the way his voice softened, the way he looked almost familiar. Before she could explore the thought, she heard footsteps approaching. Not rushed, not loud steady, but filled with purpose. She looked up and saw him, the judge from the center, Mr. Hale, walking toward her. His face was calm, but his eyes revealed something else. A storm of emotions she couldn't name. Lena stood automatically, unsure what else to do. She felt small under the weight of his gaze, but not in a frightening way. More like she was standing before someone who knew something she didn't. "Lena," he said softly, "do you have a moment?" She nodded, her throat suddenly dry. He glanced at the staff members nearby. "Could we have some privacy, please?" They nodded and stepped away, giving the two of them a quiet corner of the hallway. Mr. Hale took a slow breath, as if choosing his next words carefully. "Your performance. It was beautiful, truly. But I need to ask you something. Something personal." Lena felt her pulse speed up. "Personal? Why?" "Okay," he hesitated, then asked, "Your mother. What's her name?" Lena blinked, confused by the strange question. "Her name is Lee." It was as if the world stopped for him. His shoulders tensed, and his expression shifted from curiosity to disbelief. Pain, regret, recognition, all blending together. "Lee," he repeated, nearly whispering the name. "Lee, yes." Lena asked quietly, "Do you know her?" He closed his eyes for a moment, steadying himself. "A long time ago," he finally said. "Many years ago." Lena tried to read his face, but there was too much emotion to understand. She said she left a lot behind back then, she said softly. But she doesn't talk about it much. He nodded slowly, still processing everything. Do you know your father's name? Lena's breath caught in her throat. She shook her head. No, Mom never told me. The silence that followed was heavy, thick enough to feel. Then Mr. Hale reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photograph fold, worn around the edges. He held it gently, almost reverently, then turned it toward her in the picture. A younger version of him stood smiling, his arm around a woman with warm eyes and a familiar smile. A woman Lena had seen every day her whole life, her mother. Lena's heart stopped. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Her chest tightened, her mind raced, and she felt a strange buzzing in her ears, as if her thoughts had scattered into 1,000 pieces. Mr. Hale's voice was barely more than a whisper. Lee and I were together for a long time. We cared about each other deeply, and when she disappeared, I searched for her. For years, I thought something had happened to her. He paused, his eyes glistening. I never knew she was pregnant. Lena stared at him, the meaning settling slowly in her mind. Her throat tightened, and tears blurred her vision. Are you saying? He took a trembling breath. Lena, I think I'm your father. The world tilted. Lena felt like her body forgot how to move, how to breathe. She held on to the back of the chair beside her to keep herself steady. She had imagined her father 1,000 times. She had pictured him as kind, or distant, or gone, or dreaming of her somewhere. She had sung about him because she'd never thought she'd meet him. But here he was, standing right in front of her. Not a stranger, not just a judge, not just a name. Her father, Lena wiped her eyes with shaky hands. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything right now, he said gently. I know this is overwhelming. It's overwhelming for me, too. His voice cracked, and he looked away for a moment as if trying to keep his emotions under control. Then he asked softly, Where is your mother? Is she here? Lena shook her head. She's at home. She's sick. That's why I joined this contest. The prize money. It could help her get the treatment she needs. Mr. Hale's face changed completely. Concern replaced shock, and determination replaced confusion. She's sick? What kind of treatment does she need? Lena explained everything: the long days of worry, the financial struggles, the nights she had sung on the street to gather every small amount she could. Her voice trembled as she spoke, but she didn't hide anything. By the time she finished, Mr. Hale's jaw was tight. His fists clenched at his sides, not out of anger at her, but anger at the situation. You've both suffered so much, he said quietly. You should never have had to face all this alone. He took a deep breath and made a decision right there. Lena, I want to help you. I want to help your mother. And not because of the contest, not because of anything else, but because you're my daughter. Lena's knees almost gave out. Her voice came out as a whisper. Are you? Are you sure? He stepped closer, gently placing his hand on her shoulder. I have never been more sure of anything. You look like her. You have her voice, her spirit. And when you sang, his voice wavered. I felt something I couldn't ignore. Lena's tears fell freely now. She didn't pull away. She didn't feel scared, only overwhelmed in a way that felt strangely warm. A staff member approached then, informing Mr. Hale that the judges needed to return to the panel for the final scoring. He nodded, but didn't take his eyes off Lena. I have to go for now, he said softly. But I'm not leaving you. After the contest ends, we're going to your mother together, and we'll get her the help she needs. Lena nodded slowly. She watched him walk away, every step feeling unreal. By the time she returned to the backstage area, her heart felt too full, too heavy with emotions she couldn't name: hope, confusion, relief, fear, joy, all mixed into something she had never felt before. The rest of the contest felt like a blur. She could barely focus as other contestants performed. Her mind kept circling around the words, "He's my father." Finally, the moment came to announce the winner. All contestants were called to stand on stage. Lena's legs shook as she stepped under the lights again. The auditorium filled with applause as the audience waited. Buzzing with anticipation, the cheerful judge held a small envelope and smiled. "Thank you to every contestant who shared their talent with us today. You all were wonderful. But as always, we have to choose one winner." She opened the envelope and read the card. "The winner of this year's contest is..." A long pause. Lena, her breath stopped. The hall erupted in applause. She felt her chest swell as people clapped. Some even cheered her name. She looked toward the judge's table, and there he was, Mr. Hales, smiling softly. Not the smile of a judge, but of someone whose heart was full. Lena stepped forward to accept the award. Her hands trembled as they placed the ribbon around her neck. She bowed her head slightly, overwhelmed. But she didn't care about winning. Not really. Not anymore. After the event ended, she found Mr. Hale waiting near the stairs, his coat in hand, ready to go. He asked gently. She nodded. The ride to her home was quiet at first, filled with unspoken thoughts. He kept glancing at her as if trying to memorize every detail of her face. She stared out the window, unsure whether she was dreaming. When they reached her building, a small, worn-down place with cracked steps, Mr. Hale's eyes softened with pain. "You've lived here all this time?" he asked quietly. Lena nodded. "It's not so bad inside," shook his head slightly, not in judgment, but in sorrow. She led him up the stairs. Her hands trembled slightly as she unlocked the door. Inside, the small room was tidy, but filled with signs of struggle. Medicine bottles on the table, blankets folded carefully, a kettle with chipped edges. Her mother was lying on the bed, resting. When she heard the door open, she slowly sat up. "Lena, you're back already?" Then she saw him. Her expression froze, her breath caught, her eyes widened. She whispered his name. He stepped forward, his voice unsteady. "Lee, why didn't you tell me?" Her mother covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes instantly. She shook her head, crying softly. I thought I was doing what was best. I didn't want to burden you. Your life was taking off. You had everything ahead of you." "I wanted a life with you," he said, his voice breaking. "I would have wanted a life with both of you." The room fell into a wave of quiet emotion. Lena stood between them, tears slipping down her cheeks. Her mother finally turned to her, reaching out. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I never wanted you to feel unwanted. I only wanted to protect you." Lena took her mother's hand. "I know, Mama. I know." Mr. Hale stepped closer, his voice steady now. "I'm here, and I'm not leaving again." "Not either of you?" He immediately arranged everything, calling doctors, scheduling appointments, insisting on the best treatment available. And for the first time in a long time, Lena saw relief in her mother's eyes. Days turned into weeks. Her mother's health slowly improved under proper care. Lena visited her every day, and Mr. Hale was always there, sometimes